Cartoon Network!
You're not perfect.
Oh boy! Let's see what's on Cartoon Network!
Oh no, please don't tell me today is...
This is interesting. Well, let's see what's on the rest of the schedule. Oh. Oh no. This isn't good. This is horrible. There are no horror cartoons! Yeah, of course that's what's wrong. What do you think, I'm stupid? Courage the Cowardly Dog, Invader Zim, Over the Garden Wall, The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, Tales of the Crypt the Animated Series, and I guess if we want to go a little anime, Higurashi have all one thing in common. They're considered horror cartoons.
Not so fast, baka!
Who the fuck are you?
I'm Willy Weeaboo! I'm here to tell you the anime is not this childish media you call a cartoon! What is wrong with you?
Well, Willie, I got some news for you. The definition of the word cartoon goes as this. Cartoon, noun, a motion picture using animation techniques to photograph a sequence of drawings rather than real people or objects. In other words, anime can be defined as a cartoon. So why take it as a personal insult? We're not saying it's a kiddie thing, just because we're putting it in the same level as, let's say, Adventure Time or Rick and Morty.
Yeah, well, the difference is that anime is made in the holy land we call Japan.
Oh, and just because it's made in Japan does not mean it's above the level of the word cartoon. I mean, Code Lyoko is a French animated series, but we don't refer to it as croissantimation, now do we?
Ugh, you're talking like a dirty English dub watcher and a Sword Art Online fan. Oh, it gets me so frustrated.
Look, I'm not personally insulting you or anime in general, and I'm not saying you can't call it anime, but by anime's definition, a noun, a style of Japanese film and television animation, which goes into the definition of cartoon, technically anime is sort of a cartoon. We're not insulting it, and I'm not saying it's beneath you or beneath me or anything else out there. I am just saying that by definition, anime is sort of a cartoon. Right, fine. I guess I won't talk about Higurashi or any other horror anime out there.
Good! And don't ever do that again! I need an anime YouTuber to watch to define my opinion based on what they watch!
The anime community.
Now, enough of that oversaturated intro that's probably going to piss a lot of people off. Let's get to the main topic. Whatever happened to horror cartoons? Now, I'm not saying this as if they were ever really mainstream. To be honest, they weren't. The only exceptions were, let's say, Courage the Cowardly Dog and Invader Zim. But besides that, the genre of horror inside animation was never really popular. Action, which is still sort of a minority in animation, was practiced a lot more, and at least became mainstream. But just like action, in the current day of animation, we seemingly get nothing in the world of horror. Horror cartoons were at least practiced in the 90s, 2000s, and early 2010s, but randomly they just all seem to vanish, much like the already mentioned action cartoons. Now, this wouldn't seem like a big deal, and it really isn't, but I just have to ask, Whatever happened to those horror cartoons?
Well, obviously, horror cartoons are too scary for kids. They're gonna get scarred for life.
Tug, I didn't think you'd be against this kind of issue.
Oh, I'm not. But, well, we gotta make the conversation interesting, so I must disagree.
Oh, well. In that case, a lot of people seem to think that kids are nothing but one-note stereotypes. They're loud, bratty, ignorant, and if they don't win an Angry Birds level, they're gonna scream their head off. But I personally disagree. I see kids as little adults that just don't know how to do taxes. They understand a lot about the world. They know what death is. They understand religion and what people do for it. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff they don't understand. But it's our job to teach them that stuff. Okay, yeah, I understand you don't want to teach a kid how to rip intestines out of someone's stomach, but I still think we don't give them as much credit as they deserve. Kids understand a lot, and they can teach themselves a lot about the world too. I mean, as a kid, and you're not gonna believe this, I remember back in intermediate school, 5th or 6th grade, I was barely, let's say, maybe 10, 12, I don't know, about to become a teenager soon. There was a point in time where I had an existential crisis. I knew that everyone in my life was going to die. At some point, I was going to die, and I was terrified about what was going to happen afterwards. Yeah, a kid was thinking about that. But hey, at least I understood what death was. Sure, I was scared and petrified by it, but it wasn't because, let's say, Courage the Cowardly Dog teach me about it. I knew what death was from the very beginning. What are you going to tell a kid when his cat dies or his dog dies? We're going to tell a kid when, like, grandpa or, I don't know, some other relative dies. Oh, they just went to Kansas? I don't know. Kids can understand a lot, and yeah, they're going to get heartbroken, but adults are going to get heartbroken by the same exact stuff. So I don't think we should undermine children.
Well, it might teach them bad or inappropriate things.
Like what? Gore? Murder? Satanism? That kind of stuff is in rated R horror stuff. You can make horror without all of the, let's say, inappropriate or not so family friendly content. Courage the Cowardly Dog and many other horror cartoons have already proved that. You don't need horror to be gory or filled with death. It can be petrifying in all sorts of ways, like body horror, or let's say, I don't know, ambience, or, as much as I know this word is overused, atmosphere. Okay, so it's not hard to get that kids understand horror. So, if that's the case, is there an other reason that horror cartoons just aren't made? Well, I have 3 theories. 2 have to relate to one thing that you're currently using right now, the internet. And as wild as some of them may seem, we have to at least talk about them, alright? Without further ado, let's begin.
Tried whole grain bread? It's far better for you. Not everyone can afford organic stores, Carmen. Maybe you should check your privilege.
My first theory is probably the most insane, but thanks to some real-world examples, I feel as if it's at least plausible. What's that, you ask? Well, in 2016, it seemed like a lot of people were becoming a bit more sensitive.
What is this? I have studied the martial ways of the social justice warrior. Fight me in an argument if you dare. Perish under the sword of my self-righteousness.
Yes, my first theory puts the blame on the social justice warriors, and all of the pussies on the internet.
Now, Butler,
You may ask yourself,
what does the fall of horror cartoons have anything to do with SJWs? It seems more like you're just jumping on the hate bandwagon.
well, hear me out on this first. Ever wonder why news reporters and TV stations often show negative news rather than positive? It's because negative news gets people talking. If we saw news of a famous actor beating cancer, we'd celebrate and spread the word, but besides that, there's no real need to take action. Negative news gets people not only talking more, but also doing more. Petitions, protests, riots, proof that negative news is more profitable than positive. It's sad, but true. Now take in consideration the internet. If someone said something in a vlog or a video that's a bit negative or controversial, then people would try to spread them around as an attempt to make them look stupid, but in the end, they're just giving them more attention. Like how some people claim that the hand-drawn 2D shooter, Cuphead, is whitewashing for not including racist imagery. Yes, that's a real thing. Stupid, but it got people talking. But things like this really can't warp the perception of people or developers of certain projects, right? Well, sort of. Some companies don't care about negative publicity. To them, it's still publicity. But others, not so much.
For example, the video game Dead or Alive Extreme 3, developed by Team Ninja and published by Tecmo, may never get an official American release because of claims of sexism by these same people. Like it or not, these people have a voice, and some companies would rather bend over backwards to avoid any controversy just for a vocal minority. Maybe horror cartoons are seen as a risk at this point. Books and comics like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark and Tales of the Crypt both got the attention of angry parents, but imagine what would happen if these series came out today. I'm sure loads of people would give an even bigger uproar against these properties simply because the internet can give them a voice to do so. One they didn't years ago. To me, it's still possible, but not as possible as the other two. Once again, the internet has become a lot more prevalent in the modern age. YouTube for watching videos, DeviantArt for artwork, Tapastic for webcomics, Tumblr for complaining and whining. Why spend $60 a month for TV when the show you want to watch has to come on a certain time, and that's if it comes on more than once a week and isn't dumped on a mobile app? When you can pay around the same price for the internet where you can play games, look at news, watch series on a streaming site, listen to music, and contact friends and family at your own leisure. Streaming allows you to watch whatever you want, whenever you want. No schedules, less ads, and more promising content. Back in the early 2000s, we weren't really bothered by these limitations because TV was the biggest platform at the time. Now things are different as TV is dying and streaming is becoming the next big thing. So that means channels like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network have to try and delay the inevitable by relying on the one thing they know works. Goofy, low, random, bacon, pancakes, Budzilla comedies, know me gusto, right guys?
This is literally the most lit shit you've ever seen, fam! Now let's Pokemon Go to the polls! Cringe!
It's sad but true. Even action cartoons are rarely ever made anymore, unless they're based on a huge property, and even then they usually show once a week, maybe. That's why we have a lot of more options on something like Netflix, with Voltron, Skylanders, and others filling the gap that channels like CN aren't. They've even produced an adult action animated series with Castlevania. Those are words I never thought would come out of my mouth. An adult action animated series. So maybe streaming sites can take the wheel someday. We're still in the early phases after all, but I'd say just give it time and see what happens. Theory 3 might be the most realistic out of all of them. Throughout this entire video, I've been making it seem like companies are against something like this. And if they weren't, we'd have dozens of Courage the Cowardly Dog spiritual successors. But that might not be the case. It might just be that no one has thought of the idea of a new horror show yet, or no one's pitched it. It's possible that maybe the right creator just isn't there yet. But what about the people behind these other horror shows? Well, Maxwell Adams, Billy and Mandy's creator, is working on a kickstarted series called Dead Meat. And John R. Dilworth, Courage's creator, is working on independent short films. So yeah, they're busy. Jonan Vasquez, however, Invader Zim's creator, is working on the new TV movie for Nickelodeon, but I'm not sure what he's going to do next. But with that being said, even if we don't get any new horror cartoons right now, does that mean that we, or the target audience, kids, are missing out on horror? Not at all. Kids are looking into other things for horror. While Creepypasta, Five Nights at Freddy's, and Ben the Indian Ink Machine were never made for kids specifically, they are very popular with a younger audience. And Let's Players who play through spooky games are just as popular with them. We also have some animation with David Firth still creating content, and new stuff like Cat Ghost are also filling the gap. Things like Slender Man, Don't Hug Me I'm Scared, Poppy, and others are doing the things that older properties did to us. Scare and entertain us. But does that mean we should never get horror animated series ever again? Of course not. It just means that while it would be nice to have, it's not necessarily a need either. I'd say just wait it out and see what happens. Maybe something like Netflix could give us something new, like an adult animated horror series that uses influences from David Firth and alternate realities. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty awesome. But all we have to do is play the waiting game until then. Wait, that's it? Why aren't you screaming and shouting and calling people like Christina Miller the cause of this death?
Well, because for one, that's unnecessary, and two, it's kinda
You're childish!